Oh, there was in the first few pages, or the first page actually, there was this line of imagery that I had to read like 5 or 6 times. Then I had to put the book down and be like, maybe I don't want to read that today. Can I just share that with you all?
Yeah, please.
Please.
It says it's regarding Frederick Douglass and he's discussing his own social consumption. It says on the first page, 127, I noted in chapter 3 how images of human consumption haunted Frederick Douglass. He described slavery as a living entity that wore robes already crimsoned with the blood of millions, and even now feasting itself greedily upon our own flesh. And I wrote down racial imagery and I highlighted it, and I never thought to think of imagery in such, a way, but there are different parts of the book too, where I think, this racial, violence was so prominent that I had no other recourse but to underline it and say, this was imagery of a racial source. So yeah. And again, on 128, Feast of Blood is another thing I underlined.
Say 58?
128.
128. Oh, why is this such a long chapter? I didn't even know it was that far back.
It was so long.
Oh, I have something highlighted on 128 as well. I'm gonna read it and see if why I highlighted it jogs my memory. The Negro will disappear. Others of their religious persuasion felt that an inherited capacity for Christian persuasion guaranteed the survival of the white race, and the lack of it condemned the Negro to extinction. I think, fuck yeah, this is excellent. I love that I underlined this, because this is like an great example of how the white psyche operates. It will create an institution such as a religion, such as Christianity. And this purpose of this institution is to affirm the white psyche, and in a way to, you see here, it says guarantee the survival of the white race. This book I'm reading, the ISIS Papers, has dozens of chapters of the symbology involved within religion and Christianity that mimic this and reference this. But all in all, if you understand Christianity as a religious institution, which through the blood and death of the Black body saves and perpetuates the white race, that's how I perceive Christianity, and that's what I think is being mentioned here. And the lack of it condemned the Negro to extinction. So because the white psyche is able to project onto the Negro that you guys don't have religion, you guys aren't like, civilized in this way, so we're able to do whatever we want to you because you guys don't have religion. We're able to justify genociding you guys. We're able to justify mistreating you guys in this way. So yeah, great stuff already. What I think this chapter is also allowing me to understand, see, and believe is that, when I think about white supremacy and the system thereof and its mechanisms, if I am to put a image to that system, it would be a white man. But it shouldn't just be a white man. It should be white woman, white man, white child should be them collectively, because they all, some way, shape, or form, can refine and maintain white supremacy. So this chapter is allowing me to see like the white women are also, you know, damaged due to having the white psyche and whatever causes the white psyche to create the existence of this book. So yeah, it's just that it's really allowing me to see that yeah, white women are also as crazy, as violent as their counterpart, which is hugely neglected when talking about white supremacy. We don't, and racism in general. I think we give white women, a lot of slack in that area. But me personally, I have for sure, because that's the training we get. You know, we're not supposed to perceive women to be violent or capable of being so like insidiously manipulative. But as we see through Mrs. Plant, she's hella crazy, terrifyingly crazy, I would say.
What comes up for me when you say that is, can you all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain level of victim blaming that is systematic. How can you blame a slave for being in a situation where the master, you know?
Ebony, you're going in and out.
Oh, it's like blaming the female slave or woman slave for her condition. She can't.
Maybe me talking, she just turn your mic off.
Oh. Okay.
I don't think it's that. I think it's like maybe using your phone, maybe like, it might be like headphones. If you have headphones, might help.
I don't.
Okay, then don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. But
Okay. So I'm still heard.
Yeah.
When Swap brought up the comment that he said around the mistresses being also just perpetuators of violence, I think about victim blaming, like, and it's like a stage, you know, Black women who were in this chattel position didn't have agency to say stop, or I don't want to consent to this. And the white woman used it as fuel for her own erotic, you know, sexual, whatever the agenda was at the time. Resuscitation. I think that's how the author.
Oh yeah.
That's it. But yeah. And,
yeah.
and this discussion of how there has to be a excavation of like the lexicon at the time, because there's no way of thinking about violence on the other end, you know, with regard to male rape and female to female sexual violence as well. So I thought that was really interesting.
yeah, I thought this chapter was like the culminating, like the last couple pages, I thought were just so like epic. I don't like the way that it just like all came together towards the end, and the analysis of like this kind of like gender bending, or like this idea that though like this white woman has taken on this like, not that she like was taking on a masculine role, but like she was masculine in the way that she like sexually abused Harriet. I think it's Harriet. And I really liked the way that they talk about how like they reproduce these white supremacists like straight from birth, like when they have this like such closeness to Black women, the Black mammy who like literally sacrifices so much for them, and then they feel like, I like the way that he talks about how the grandmother Flint was like the one is like responsible for this infrastructure that like produces someone as violent as Dr. Flint. Like it all works together. And I think that that's a really good analysis, because there's always movies where there's a white person that good liberal white people can like recognize themselves in, like in The Help and all that stuff, when really like those people are also in some way like perpetuating white supremacy. And I think he does a really good job of showing that. And I just really liked that whole scene of her grandmother at the auction block, and like all of these people are like, don't hurt my mammy, you know, like don't take her away from me. And it's just like her, like him showing that is also violent, you know, this idea that they like don't take her away, not because she's a human, but because I own her, and because she reminds me of a childhood where I had everything that I wanted and it was given to me by this Black woman. So I was just like super like into this whole chapter. I thought it was really, really interesting, like the reproduction of white supremacy within the white family in general. Yeah, I did want to say though, she does like misquote, or sorry, he misquotes Michelle Wallace in there's like a line.
What page?
I'm looking for it right now. It's towards the end though. Yeah, sorry. I can't find the page. Let me search Wallace. Okay, there's like multiple Wallaces, so it's worth it, the time. But like, there's a quote about like in Black Macho, she quotes Michelle Wallace, and it's not actually Michelle Wallace saying that. It's Michelle Wallace. Oh, it's on page 168. The Black homosexual is counter-revolutionary, 1, because he's being fucked, and 2, because he's being fucked by a white man. That's actually Eldridge Cleaver. Like, she was analyzing Eldridge Cleaver. And I'm actually reading a book about Eldridge, like it's about Eldridge Cleaver and like how a lot of people view his homophobia and how he was actually like gay and a lot of other stuff. But like, yeah, so I just wanted to say that because just in case, like, yeah, anyone was.
Oh, that's important. That's
Yeah.
like a really big difference.
Yeah,
Like
it does. It makes a difference.
Wow.
But I'm wondering, like, what you guys think about, like, the final kind of conclusion of this chapter. Like, I think I kind of was there, but then not all the way, when I felt like he was trying to imply that, like, Luke can, like, reclaim his abuse in a way, and it didn't, like, fully get there to me. Like, what did you guys think about that part?
This was like the most academic chapter for me thus far, that like there are a lot of things that he wrote that I was like, I don't know if I'm like really following like the exact logic of this, or it's just like a reach. But yeah, what you just said reminds me of how he said like the violence that women experienced under chattel slavery like didn't like disconnect them from their womanhood, but he's saying that with Jacobs it did, but he's trying to say like it didn't actually, like it was what allowed him to be subversive in some way. But I think he only said that at like the very, very end. He's like, yeah. In fact, maybe the fact that he did experience it made it so that he could like, I mean, I didn't really see that, because I don't I mean, maybe there could be an argument for that, but in all of the other parts of the chapter, it doesn't, there's like really no example of like Jacob's like being able to be empowered in that way. Like, from what I can tell, like it's just like pure suffering. Like, I don't,
yeah. But what I got like is that in the context of like, you know, like chattel slavery system, neither like sexes were able to like operate in a consistent gender role. Therefore, their all of their experiences was like a forced fluidity, a forced like that's what I got. Like what this chapter meant is that like we're just not developing the language to even talk about these people's experiences in a constructive way, in a way that we're meeting, in a way that we're able to understand why are this kind of behavior like why is this behavior happening within this context of white supremacy? Why is the like Black body the other object? How is it that the white psyche rationalizes that a person is a object? What institutions are in place to support this inhumane rationalization of such a system happening?
And I think the chapter served as a platform for the author to argue for a more broader understanding of gender, sexuality, fluidity on a plantation, and thinking of the plantation as a household, and seeing the moving pieces of incest and, sexual violation, mother hungering.
I think it's just the line. It's like Luke's erotic desire for men on or for a specific man may have sustained him and made him resistant to his master's desires to erotically partake of and consume him. Like for me,
highlighted.
yeah, because it was just such a, I felt like it's just a really bold statement.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's, like they say that there's only 2 pages where they talk about Luke. And I don't think that there's really, I don't remember it implying that he enjoyed it and I feel like just because he was seen as feminine or subordinate, I don't know if that would have made him be able to like resist the like mental and physical and sexual abuse. So that part to me, I didn't really like that part.
Yeah, it's like as if to argue like if he was read as more whatever straight or masculine, then like he would have been worse off. Or
Yeah.
and so it's weird because there's like layers to it. Part of it is like, well, I think earlier it implied that maybe he was the target of the sexual violence because of how he was like perceived differently and like his gender was like more feminine, but also, and I don't know if that's necessarily victim blaming. I think that might just be like a sad truth that happens. But yeah, to say that like because he is that maybe was this way that I don't know if he's if Woodard is maybe trying to like bring it into some sort of like contemporary context that like maybe like men's femininity today like can allow them to resist certain things, but I don't think so here. Like it's just like so violent, and there's no examples of him like being able to use his femininity for himself.
How does everyone feel about how we're consistently like learning about these slaves writing about their experiences, and then we also see in action either a white supremacist or an institution of the white supremacists telling them that they can't tell the masses what really happened because they won't believe it because it's too much for them to handle, or them having to like minimize what happened to them. How do you guys feel about that? And do you guys see that still happening in like the modern era, like right now? And also, let me know if you guys don't understand the question.
Yeah, can you repeat that?
How do you feel about hearing about these, victims of slavery expressing like not being able to express what really happened to them because of white supremacists are telling them that no one's gonna believe this, or no one's gonna like, or this is like gonna make it hard for the reader to read it, even though this is like your lived experience. This system of white supremacy of disallows you to express that and have that be known. And do you guys still see that happening today? That's the question.
I think it can work two ways. On the one hand, the
Everybody, your mic is choppy, choppy. Let's see now.
I think working two ways. On one hand, you have a slave master who is, he wants to appear compassionate, like a part of their Christian, upbringing. They're seen in this compassionate way. And so the slave hiding some truths can help to, protect that image around, a slave master being a compassionate Christian. And on the other hand, it becomes politicized. We see how Walker discusses her own, uh, sexual violence in coded ways. And then she's talking about the mistress, Mrs. Flint. And we see how she writes about other Black men's experiences. So it affects the way that we get the real truths about what really happened on the context of the plantation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like there's things that we'll never know that have happened on the plantation, or we'd have to do a lot of digging to piece it all together. Which is which should never fall on the victim, but in the system of white supremacy, it does fall on the victim to get any sense of true justice. I'm really happy that this chapter also just gave a really good example of how racism, like its whole like its whole like just the way it manifests and how like it's learned in children because this baby, this white baby, learns as a baby to pick up just on like the environment and on like the happenings going around, and it learns that okay, so this black, the black one is the one that the ones that don't look like us, you know, those are the ones that we like are better than. Those are the ones that we own and can do whatever with. So this child grows up with this mentality that the black objects, the black things are mine. So of course they're gonna be like taking after their fathers if they see their fathers, sneaking into the slave quarters. Well, I feel like when as early as a child possibly can, they're gonna be sneaking into the slave quarters to mimic the father. So 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, rapists, of course, those were like reality. And I think that it says that when she was 14 or 15, Jacobs would get bribed from the white people on the plantation, like the white family members of Flint. And if she didn't take the bribes for what I'm assuming were sexual advances, they would just rape her anyway. And that's what I got from this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's on yeah. If you guys can remember what part I'm talking about. But it's anyways, it gave me what I was thinking about. I wanted to learn how early this sort of behavior was manifesting. And when I say behavior, I mean like racist behaviors. And yeah, so this is like a really great example.
There's a it says remaining meeting time is 1 minute. Do you guys see that? Or is it
Yeah. I have to do another meeting. Like we don't have the time anymore. So let me just end it here. I'll just end it here, and then I'll just redo.
No, just let it time out, because then you maximize the amount of meeting time. If you just let it time out.
Okay, well,
We don't know when it'll happen.
Yeah.
Keep us on our toes.
Let's just use the remaining time to just think about.
I feel like this chapter really made me appreciate like movies or shows that are centered around like a Black family or something, and there's not one white person who's good. I feel like the fact that there's always has to be like one redeemable, liberal, like caring white trope, I think that's just, it's so common and it's not reality with what has happened in society. And so it makes it's like in everything. I feel like the only ones that like came off the top of my head were like Black Panther, where like the only white character was evil. I'm like, okay. Or like Orfeo Negro, which is a Brazilian Black Orpheus romantic movie where like all of the white characters are like look like goals, like they're like it like they're barely in it in anything, and it's so subtle. But
I just really like the whole Aunt Mary, Miss Flint, that whole section is just, it has so many layers. It's so interesting. Just like the way that they talk about how she like Jacobs like makes her out to be like this just like giving and sweet old woman. And when you really think about it, it's like she set it up so that she could use Aunt Marthy until the very end of her life. And then even after that, like put her in a peculiar position where her freedom wasn't like completely, like, wasn't just like a done deal. And I think that that's so the setup of like the world in general. Like when I talk to like my family a lot and we talk, and like they're so, I feel like my family is very like liberal, democratic minded. And I think it's very similar. Like they just remind me of this woman, like this grandmother, because it's like she literally like, it's like she will exploit you until the very end and then set it up so that, you know, maybe there's a possibility that just Aunt Marthy gets free, but not like all her children and like the people who like, you know, like, so it's like she's like being like racially showcased in that way too. And then to like make it seem like she's so benevolent for doing this for you. I just feel like it's just such a perfect example of like America and how America treats Black people. And I just kept reading it, and I was just so like mad at this old lady because they're just like really just making it seem like just the way that like Jacobs describes her. And then to think that, you know, she had all of this planned in her mind. She knew, like, not to say that she knew that Dr. Flint would like try to auction her off or all of that, but she knew that her position when she died would be peculiar. It wouldn't be like definitely free, and she knew that her children wouldn't definitely be free. And I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to be like Aunt Marthy, to be free and to not have your descendants or like family be free. Like that would fuck me up so much. Like, I don't know. And to be like free and prosperous to the like capacity that you could be as a Black person in that time. Like, I just thought that was really, really interesting. And also when Dr. Flint writes that note to her, super manipulative. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, he was literally like, we were weeping at her side and like you weren't there. And it's just like, oh my God. Like, yeah.
I think I think this is showcasing like the how psychotic, you know, the white psyche has manifested in certain areas of our time. Yeah. Jeez.
And I'm reminded of like this new tool of conceptualization the author gives us about relaying the slave body, carrying it to a machine. I think that's a good segue.
If I could chop you off.
Yeah, I didn't hear. Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry. I wanted to hear it.
Oh, I was talking about how the author gives us a new concept, like a new tool to think about slavery. With the cotton gin example, not able to piece apart the individual from the machine idea. So the mammy, how she fits into this is that, you know, she falls on the sword each and every time, but it's a part of her machinery. Like, we can look at her as a human in as much she can like serve us and be the polished, you know, machine that we paid for, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the mammy's machinery is like her body. It's like her breasts. It's like her touch. It's like, ugh, it's just so like disturbing. Like,
Human man parasites, manocytes.
And something that was new to me was that the author describes the mammy as being devoid of sex. I thought it was the other way around, or is that just?
no, the mammy is generally like desexualized, and it's just like a tool for white comfort. Like, a lot of people say Octavia Spencer. They say she often gets like mammy type roles because she's never really allowed to be like sexual, but she's always like in roles where she's like of support of a white person. Even in The Help, I think she would like the white woman. I just watched it the other day. The white, like Octavia Butler supports, I think the white woman whose husband is like, no, forget it. The white women are mean to her, and then Octavia Butler supports her. But then Octavia Butler's husband is like abusive, and that's like the only abusive man in the whole movie is Octavia Butler's Black husband. They like all the white men are just either aloof or like just like not around. It's super interesting. Like,
oh my God.
And they don't actually show her husband either. They just like talk about
imply that he's abusive.
Yeah, like she comes to the house with like a black eye and stuff like that.
Holy
but yeah,
shit.
the mammy is usually like desexualized, I think.
Wow, I've never seen The Help, but that is so bad. Like, it's not subtle at all. Like, everything you just said, the fact that he's like never even shown on screen is just like this myth of like the violence that she experiences also. Wow.
Oh, I love that you used the word Yeah, because I'm learning about how we get a lot of our like subconscious logic or like just the logic that we don't take the time to process. Oh, why are we doing this? Why is our day going like this? You know how we're just always in this like flow of just doing things without really thinking about every single action we're doing. It's because our minds have just developed a pattern of just how things work, and like myths, like logical myths and stuff like that. That's where we, as like society, that's where our culture comes from. If you like took the time to like look at certain myths, I'll throw out one is Oedipus, where like where it's about that guy who like eventually like ends up having sex with his mom or whatever, and then we can like compare that to Freudian like thought and how he like wrote about that need for like the children wanting to have sex with their moms or something like that. So it's kind of like an example of how like the myth becomes like, you know, in our subconscious logic or something. It's just funny like use that word.
Yeah, Evan, actually, to respond to your thought, also what Ashley was saying, I think a lot of like modern fat phobia and like the desexualization of that like fat women experience also stems like from the mammy stereotype as like the contrast or the like the Jezebel. But the artist that I sent last week, Yatunde, a lot of her work is about like giving the mammy like sexuality and like empowerment. Interesting. But I guess what's wild is that like all of these things contradict each other. Like she's desexed, but is being used in this way that's like associated with like fertility and like life giving and everything, which is like obviously so connected to like sexuality. But
Dang, you use another word that got my white supremacy antennas up in the air. Contradiction. Like, oh no, you said you said contradiction, right?
yeah.
Yeah, which is like, you know, it's another word for like hypocrisy. You see, this small white supremacy is very hypocritical, because how can you deem yourself honorable while putting a fucking human being in a cotton gin machine? Like this is like, and they still have the ability to rationalize it. So we see this like white supremacist mentality and its culture and how it does. It says doing one thing, like it's bringing like civilization progress to a land, when it's really just creating chaos and suffering and destruction, you know, to all people that are not like themselves. So it's just really like interesting.
I think that's interesting too, because like I feel like it fits perfectly into what white people want in terms of like they're really like the kind of like Protestant Puritan idea. It's like literally the act of like fertility without actually thinking of, without sex, like without thinking about sex or anything sexual.
The Virgin Mary.
Yeah, so it's like the child is just born of nothing, like it just becomes, and then there's like the woman to take care of it already. And I think it's interesting because I'm just wondering how that household worked, because I feel like a lot of white women must have internalized ideas of like what it means to be a woman, but then also see that like there's a person there who they don't even consider to be a woman doing everything that like what it entails to be a woman is. Like, I don't know, like I just wonder like if there was a sense of like jealousy, but then I'm like, were they even close to their kids? Did they even care that their kids had these like bonds with these women that, or women that they didn't even consider to be human. Like,
Oh.
it's just so interesting.
Wow.
Like, which is a contradiction too. It's like, how could you not take away this person's humanity, but then give them the authority to like raise your child, essentially? Like, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think we have to understand the subconscious mind and maybe where that subconscious mind originated from, like physically, or to get to grasp, to really grasp that. But did we learn how one white child felt some sort of a lost Negro coma because her old slave was taken away from her, so she became ill. So what does that say, about, well, I don't know. That's something to be. I wish that we could understand further. Like, what was that? Like, was this mammy figure providing this child with such, like, sustenance, such soul food, that when it was no longer there, she couldn't handle it. Like, she couldn't handle that mental reality, that mental physical reality. Therefore, became sick. Maybe an early form of like hypochondria. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, that part was crazy. I was just thinking too, like, I feel like Terry Crews is like the male mammy figure, modern day male mammy figure. Terry Crews and The Rock, because they're both like super like desexualized, and they're meant to provide like joy to white people. But like, I don't think I ever see them have like actual partners or anything in anything that they're in, or like are sexual.
yeah.
Like Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And,
No, literally The Rock. I feel like he's been in several movies where he's like taking care of children.
Yeah, he takes care of like kids, and like he's like wears like, like, I think there's ones where he takes care of kids. He's like the what is that, the tooth fairy. There's one where he's the tooth fairy.
Oh yeah. That's actually how Hollywood, like his earlier steps into Hollywood, were those kind of roles. Yeah. And wow, and he also replaced the white man in Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is about him taking his white family on like a magical adventure where he's like chaperoning them on this journey to all these wonderful sights. So definitely, wow. See,
It's like a mixture of the magical Negro and the mammy put together. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so interesting. Do you guys feel like, this material is helping you guys to understand like the happenings of like?
You gotta speak louder. I can barely.
Oh, do you guys think this book is helping you guys to understand reality more, or is it just validating certain things you already knew about reality, or? Is it
I
helping
think,
you?
yeah. Just in short, I think the takeaway that even if this one particular white woman was quote unquote nice, it doesn't take away like her role in the violence that she was actually enacting, and that can be applicable to like everything that we're seeing now, and like that I feel like are the conversations that white people are finally like realizing with police and stuff, that it's like it doesn't matter if like your dad who is black is a cop, like the whole system is like inherently this violent way. So yeah.
For me, it's kind of like overwhelming, slightly depressing, because it's like there's so many more like complex conversations that we have to have about how all of this, how these structures are set up and how they affect us mentally, subconsciously. And I feel like we're not even scratching the surface. So I'm like, how are we gonna like get to like all of these nuances, or like when it's like so hard to just break through the most, like it's like even in this book, you know, it's like how Swal was saying, it's so hard for the people who are writing these narratives to even talk about what happened to them. And to this day, it's like still hard. Like that's why people don't say the word white supremacy like ever. They'll say like racism because it doesn't actually implicate like white people explicitly. And like I think there's so many more conversations we need to have, and it kind of makes me like nervous. Every chapter I read, I'm like, oh my god, there's more nuance. Like, like, like here's like more shit that it's just. I mean, it's good, but it's like it makes having conversations with other people really hard because there's just so much complexity to everything, and there's so much programming that we have to like unlearn.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Are you muted?
No sound.
Okay.
Everybody, we can't hear you.
Alrighty.
Okay, now we can kind of.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna leave, or should I just leave? Or
No.
Oh, you should try to still participate. Answer the
No.
question.
I want to hear.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I guess I was going to discuss before I lost my train of thought of how, you know, it's calling into question the narrative behind the narrative that we don't tell. The author sort of calls these women into the room, these intellectuals that we put on a pedestal, like Bell Hooks and Wallace, and we learn that their ideas maybe aren't as inclusive as we thought. And yeah, I'm wondering what's under that even. What couldn't the researcher see because of his own privilege? So it's like, yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think for me personally, it's very validating to see such a like intelligent such intelligent writers and scholars like who wrote and helped to co-write this book talk about these adult males acting like crazed psychopath children, and because that's a really good way to describe like the master mentality, I would say, you know. And also when I compare it to the ISIS papers, which talks about the origins of like white skin, white people, like that whole white psyche and how they put all these symbols into their subconscious, and these symbols reinforce like institutions and like just culture in general. It's just super validating to see all this come together and this horrendous cycle of like insanity, rationalized insanity. That's a good way to call it. Because how else, what else way to describe the slave system, or what else way to describe, you know, justifying putting hundreds of people like in bottoms of the boats, you know, having them like defecate and die in there. You know, well, how else do you justify this stuff? You have to have subconscious helping you do it. And that's what the white culture has done, created. So incredibly validating to like read this book, and also just yeah, really good stuff.
What do you like? So, what do you guys think about the like conclusion that he comes to at the end in terms of like, yeah, what Ebony was saying, Woodard's analysis of these like kind of Black feminist writers and their kind of lack of thinking outside of these kind of stringent ideas. Like I'm wondering what you guys think about that, and like how do you think that can be applied in like a liberatory sense, if that question makes sense.
If I'm understanding the question correctly, I think one must understand that you know the very fabric of how one thinks has been programmed to um, think in a way that's European, think in a way that's white, think in a way that is how they of their worldview. So if we're applying their worldview to what we're calling knowledge, then we have to think about how beneficial that knowledge can be. If I'm understanding your question correctly, you know, if I'm yeah, if I'm playing your game or your set of rules, I can only do so much. Have either of y'all seen BBC's like Racism a History? It's absolutely incredible. It just shows like the wickedness of white supremacy. The last episode is like, wow, I'm gonna have to show it in like my classrooms, but I have access to it if you guys wanna watch it.
Racism, a history.
Yeah,
BBC?
yeah,
Okay, cool.
so good, man. And just so many genocides have happened. So many genocides have happened that is so just wiped under the rug. Just, oh, so they just do this for fun, They just do this as a nature. This is just nature to them to do these things and justify it.
I watched all of Lovecraft Country. I'm all caught up now. It's good. Even though I don't like anything scary usually.
Fuck.
Oh, gosh.
Did you see any like delectable Negro themes?
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, the way when what's the main character's? I never can
I think it's
remember.
Pig.
Tick, when they were preparing him for the ceremony, and he's like completely naked, and like the way that the young, I forget her name, the daughter, the white woman, like is looking at him, and like everyone's just like dressing him and like preparing him. Oh my god, yeah, I was definitely thinking about it, because it's not just like it's not just like, oh, a white woman hypersexualizing a black man, which is like, like an idea I'm familiar with, but just like the levels to it of like how they're prepping him and like for a specific use and all that. Yeah. Oh my god.
And it's also like incestual because they're like partially related.
Yeah.
Too, so it's like all these layers of weird.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like, is it not into the white subconscious? I like, don't you wish the good old days when we had the auction block? You had a row of Negroes on the auction block. Don't you miss those good old days?
I thought it was the dad too. At one point, he was like, "Don't forget, like what you are. You're a reservoir." And that part just like really struck with me about the book. I was like, "Dang, that's totally how they see like Black people. You're literally just like a reservoir that I can take from and completely like suck dry." Yeah.
Or like the rules, it's another myth of like these moral rules. They only exist up until the point which white people like can use them for their own personal gain and power, and then the point in which it's at some point giving like a Black person authority or power, they're like, actually, like, fuck those rules. And that's just like what we see constantly in society. And I feel like that's described a lot of times in this book too. Like if someone was free, they're like, just kidding, you're in debt or stuff like that. Like it's just constantly finding new ways to fuck over a Black person.
Yeah. It's like, you're free, but you get to witness your children like as slaves. Like what the fuck? It's just wow.
How many more chapters are there?
I think there's 2 more.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna read after this book? I'm excited.
So,
even though obviously there's a significant amount, but
you should read Urugu.
after saying we should read Urugu, which is, from my experience of it so far, it's a much more intensive.
It's pretty hard, but it's really good.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Yurugu. It's supposed to be a critique of like European culture and thought from an African perspective.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's how she like so far it's like she's going through starting from like Plato and like Aristotle to now, and she goes through like it's already super good. And I see parts of it even in this book, like when he talks about the master slave, mom, child, white woman abolitionist, Black women, like that. Those dichotomies are so just like European fixed ideas of like grouping people and separating people instead of like understanding things in a much more like complex, like holistic way. But yeah, it's so good.
So I would say Urugu or ISIS Papers, because ISIS Papers is
But you're already starting a book club with it.
Yeah, true. But I don't mind. I don't mind rereading the book twice over. Read the book 3 times. It's a good book. It's a phenomenal book. But yeah, so you review our ISIS papers. They're both incredibly like they're both must reads. Just your reviews.
It's just really dense, I guess.
Yeah, it's really good too.
Is it like very theory?
There's a lot of, she uses a lot of new terms because she's like basically making a new language to describe it because it's supposed to be like, I mean, not a new language. She uses a lot of like Swahili and also like Tree, which is like from Ghana. So it's like, it's kind of hard to get past that part of understanding it. But
once that makes it even better for discussion.
And once you understand, and once you understand like these 3 like terms, you'll kind of get you kind of see what she's talking about, and you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to get it. You'll for sure get it. But she has like these really amazing like graphs. I mean charts and like illustrations of what she's talking about, and you're gonna be able to get some capacity of what she's talking about. And I hear like towards like the half of the book, you really are able to like wow moment of the white psyche.
Don't tell me that now.
The ISIS
I'm gonna be like waiting for that.
ISIS paper is the entire thing is like wow. White people are just like that.
Okay, I just found the PDF, so I'll email it to you so then you can distribute it to whoever.
Oh yeah.
I know you already have it, but
yeah, we have 2 copies coming, and we have a PDF too. But you can send it to Ebony.
Oh yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Ebony, what's your email?
EMROBEY.
You should put it in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you. I was like, I'm gonna miss
Oh man.
Cool.
Yeah. And also like Dr. Cress Welsing, who wrote the ISIS paper, she writes with such passion. Like she uses exclamation marks. She don't give a fuck, you know. And I love that, you know. I love that about her.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like dry.
Yeah, it's so incredible. I just think for the foundation of the book club, I really want us to like understand white supremacy, and I really want us to understand the white mind. You know, I think that would be a good foundation to like just go from there. Well, it would be a good foundation to becoming really good counter-racist people. So, did anyone learn anything new about white people this chapter?
Not like anything that I knew they didn't have the capacity for to begin with. Like, not really.
That was
Ebony, hey, your mic, the sound.
okay.
Okay, now it's good. It's good now.
The white woman.
I can't hear you.
I heard up to the white woman as the sexual predator.
That was new for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to mention like me like seeing this. You know, it helps me to like hold myself accountable for letting a white woman slide on racism and not suspecting them to be racist. Also reminds me of how my high school teacher got like she's a sexual molester. You know, she got like charged with that, and I mean, and also not the only one. There's so many other white women teachers who are caught with inappropriate relationships, with children.
Yeah, I read an article actually about this white woman who adopted this black child. Like the child, the boy had a mom and a dad, but somehow they still let the white woman adopt. And then they ended up having a kid together. And the woman is like in her 30s and the kid was like 14, 15. It's
Oh
like
my
really
God.
the depths of the depravity, is that the word? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like so yeah. I think in a lot of slave movies they show the white woman being jealous of the black woman for like but they don't and they show it as her being kind of bratty in that way, but not like
Yeah.
them being actually like violent.
Yeah.
That and that idea of the image of her like just how like over her body at night and like whispering things to her was like
Yeah,
wow.
that was
So
scary. I'm like,
yeah.
that's some like that seems to me like a symptom of a mental illness is how I would describe that behavior. But not
Like
psychiatrist.
just a truly like obsessive.
The first time I heard someone discussing like adoption as like child trafficking, it like really reframed everything for me. And
Yeah.
what you just said is like that's like sex trafficking and child trafficking, but like state sanctioned. Like holy shit,
Yeah.
this poor kid.
Like I don't want to go too off topic, but like
Yeah.
DCF is completely like a child
DCF?
trafficking, like the Department of Children and Family Services. DCF,
Oh, okay.
they're completely like a child trafficking like organization. Like they set it up so like they'll put like homeless mothers, give them housing, and then they'll get evicted from the housing because they set them up to live with some slumlords who want to kick them out, because the people who do their housing, they get paid at the beginning of the year, so they have no incentive to keep them there, so they just kick them out after a month and get a new deposit. And then once those people are homeless, they say, oh, you're homeless, so you can't have access to your children, you can only see them during visitation, and they take their kids away. And so it's like this cycle of like,
and then a certain group of
the
people
way
make
black
money off of that.
yeah, taking away black kids and giving them to like white people, which is like also what happens in Canada with like indigenous kids. Like I think there's like more indigenous kids with white people, or like in like the foster system.
I want to say I don't think this is off topic. I think this is hand in hand to slavery. Slavery was human sex trafficking. So,
yeah, and child trafficking too.
Can say that. I don't know if Evan is going to be joining us. Probably her.
Actually, my roommate's gonna be teaching music lessons in a couple of minutes. Just told me, so I have to dip because you'll hear that. But until she gets here,
oh man.
Yeah, even like the whole like, after Britain stopped trading slaves, like that's when the whole system of like breeding happened, and they had like breeding farms with like black women and black children being like forced to give birth to like 10 kids before they were 25 or something.
Oh my God.
So it's like all of those things still, happen now.
Yeah, man. Sick. White supremacy sucks. Yeah, but as long as we're all conscious, that we are prisoners of war under the system, white supremacy, and when we behave in that manner, we should be able to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I learned in this chapter, you should be as afraid as white woman as you are a white man.
You didn't know that before?
No, bro. I used to go
I
on
think
like
there's a whole push now. White women,
Karen.
Karen. And you know who perpetuates the Karen shit the most is white men. Because it totally takes the eye off of them, on top of the fact that they hate white women too.
Yeah. That's so true.
Even when I saw like the white woman save her at the auction, I was like, "Oh, thank God, white woman." You know, even though
Oh, Small, you're so whack. Are you kidding me?
yeah, bro, like that's the condition there, man. That's the condition. I gotta help myself, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, yes, it's like, I really have to, I haven't been a good prisoner of war.
Okay. Oh, I just got your downloaded. I'm so excited to read this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Y'all have a good week.
Right,
Thank you for everything. Bye.
Is the book club over?
Yes, you got.
We can still talk about the book. Okay, well, bye.
Yeah, everything just did, no buy on that.
Don't forget this is recording.
I know.
And I think maybe, it's okay.
Yeah, I think they're a little bummed out because of their mic situation.
Yeah, I think with headphones, it'll be fine. Because it might be that the phone is
Too far.
far.
I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, even this whole Karen, because the programming is the whole Karen. Karen to me, Karen is a name. Karen is not white supremacist. Karen is a name. It's confusion. It's a seed. So if they're out here yelling white supremacists, I'd be paying more attention. But I hate the Karen thing. I hate that they call these people, these white supremacists, Karens. But that's confusion in the seed. Maybe I should do my own.
Yeah, I could see that because it like defames them, and it's like they're just calling the cops on everyone, but really it's like no, they're like calling the race soldiers to attack. Like
that. I should do a series like Karens are white supremacists. I should do a series on that.
I don't think people don't think that Karen are white supremacists.
But no one's saying who's using this language. Who's using this language? Exactly, man. Jeez. That like, did you get ghost vibes reading like Jacob's pet like experience with the white woman, nightly rituals and visits? Like I got
that was so like creepy. Like that was so creepy.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, there's a fascination. I feel like white women are super fascinated in like a weird, like in a homoerotic way of like Black women. And so it makes sense that she could, when she was asleep, hover over her, whisper to her, be weird. She probably, what I'm thinking is she was trying to see how her husband sees her, Harriet, when he's raping her. That's why she was like hovering over and looking at her that way, which is what I was thinking. Like that's what she's trying to put herself in that position, to feel that power and to see like, oh, like what is my husband like so much about having sex with her or raping her.
Yeah, that's sick. That's dark. That's a horrible lie. I was not thinking that layeredly about this.
You're thinking what?
I wasn't thinking that layeredly about this. I wasn't giving it that much nuance, but like even that, from her perspective and like how that, contextualizes so much more. Jeez. And also the white child fainting because she lost her slave. That could have been like just one of their like adapting like their disarming tactics, white women, because white women, they love crying, they love like, they know how they're really good at making you feel bad for them. So everything should be studied.
Yeah, I agree. She's trying to get like sympathy. Yeah, that whole I think we should read that book, Incidents of a Slave Girl.
Probably. But let's get our foundation cemented first. Let's get our foundation. We got Urugu, ISIS paper, economist, logic. That they were good. Any book
I'm about to read Urugu right now today.
Yeah, Urugu's really good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get my big book and hug it and highlight it.
Wow, you really sound like me. All right, I'm gonna get off.
All right, it was nice. Thanks for counting white supremacy, white supremacy book club in 001. I appreciate your being invested.
Me too. Thank you for having me, and enjoy your day on the plantation, as they say.
I shall try.